to Speak Life. I'm your host, Pastor Melissa B. I'm here today with my guest, Scott Pacitti, and we're here to talk about his business, Planet Improv Inc., and that's your nonprofit, and Planet Improv Educational Services, that is your for-profit. Exactly, right?
That is correct.
How you doing today, Scott?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you were able to be here today. Thank you for taking this time out. I want you to know how much I appreciate it in advance, okay?
I appreciate it as well.
Okay, so Scott, let's get right into this. What is Planet Improv Inc. Educational Services? Because I met you on a conference call, and we were talking about post-traumatic stress. And so you do something with improv for the children. That's what I heard you say.
Definitely.
And so I wanted to just get an idea of what you do in reference to assisting and helping the children.
Definitely. When most people hear the word improv, depending on how much experience they may or may not have with it, what most people think of is either the television show Whose Line Is It Anyway, if you've ever seen that,
Yes.
or maybe if they've ever been to Chicago, or actually almost any large city in the United States now, they think of comedy improv shows.
Okay.
And certainly amongst the things that I and we do, well, at least before the pandemic, we did do shows on a regular basis. We've been around for quite a while. But once the pandemic hit, and I had already been doing it anyway, but I really felt at that point, since that part of the business would no longer, at least in the short term, be feasible, I would really concentrate on the work that we do with students and children of all ages. So basically, what we do, or kind of a hybrid of what we did and what we are doing now, and hopefully what we would be doing again
In the future,
in the
right?
very near future,
Right.
is what we do is, I break it down into three components as to what we try to use, what they call applied improv. And I'll tell you what that is.
Okay.
That is the skills that one learns if they are an improv performer.
Okay.
So,
okay.
and it has nothing to do with being funny, it has nothing to do with being an actor or a comedian or a performer. But basically, using those skills in the real world. And the way I break it down, the way it helps children of all ages and grade levels, first of all, what it will do for them is, it obviously encourages creativity and imagination. Now there are, obviously many children who that's part of their regular lives, creativity and imagination in many ways.
Right.
But sometimes, especially perhaps in some of the lower socioeconomic schools,
Right.
sometimes they don't have access to things that most of us or most children take for granted.
That's true.
And what is great about improv in general is there is a very low cost of entry, meaning that we are not spending money on costumes, on backgrounds. We're not learning lines and memorizing lines or putting big musicals together. So it's a very good entry point to young men and young women who perhaps have never done any sort of theater before.
Right.
So that's
right.
a wonderful thing. So imagination and creativity. A second thing that improv is wonderful in teaching valuable lessons about is something that is very important in the schools these days, and they call it social emotional learning.
Okay.
Which basically is, what is going on in the minds and brains of children at any time. And especially now with the times that we're going through, where a lot of the children have not been able to connect in person with their friends, sometimes even families, cousins, things like that. They feel isolated,
Right.
and it's tough on them mentally.
Absolutely.
So being able to, and what we try to do is provide a safe space, a trustworthy space, where either we can talk about what they're doing or not doing, or we can play out skits where maybe they play themselves or they play another character, and that way they can maybe talk over some things that are troubling to them, but in a very, like I said, a safe way, a trusting way, and oftentimes an entertaining way. So it's not quite as traumatic as maybe talking about it, and it might not seem like we're doing what we're doing because it seems like we're having so much fun doing it.
Okay.
So
a lot of the kids are enjoying learning this new skill.
Definitely.
This is something totally that is unfamiliar to them.
I think that children, again, of all ages, of all grade levels, of all socio and economic levels, I think they're born with an innate ability to have fun, to play,
yes,
to do things like that. And sometimes what we do as adults is we sort of stifle that creativity. We ask them to perhaps grow up before their time and to be almost adults before we've given them a chance to be a child. So this sort of takes that pressure away. And again, it still produces some wonderful results, but it's, couched in something that comes so normal to them as playing characters or doing funny voices or doing things like that. So, it's a wonderful thing that can help them as well. And the third piece that I mentioned that I think is very important, again, especially in this day and age, what they used to call back in the day soft skills. Things like, how do you work with other people? How do you communicate? And there are just a laundry list of these soft skills that really benefit, as they grow up. They are things that we all need, and we learn them either from our parents, perhaps we do learn them in school on a second-hand basis, but mostly we learn a lot of it, by living, by connecting with other people, by just doing the natural things in life. And again, what this allows us to do with the art form of improv is, again, work together with a group of people. Maybe sometimes they're people that we know, sometimes they're brand new to them, and hopefully, if I'm the facilitator of those activities, or whomever's the facilitator, if they're skilled enough, then again, they make it a very low-level stress situation. And then perhaps after we're done with what we do, whether it's just for an hour-long period or multiple sessions over a day, a week, a month, whatever, we sort of, talk about maybe some of the lessons that they have learned without really knowing it. And then say, do you realize that what you have been doing, it teaches you this lesson and that lesson and that lesson. And hopefully, it allows them to gain some skills that, again, as they get older, it's really going to benefit them down the road. And I'll bring up one other thing that falls in the social emotional learning thing that we've done quite a bit and we continue to do, I hope, again, especially as the pandemic, hopefully the world opens up again, is we oftentimes do either conflict resolution workshops or anti-bullying workshops.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a pause for the cause.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break and we will be back with Scott, and we're going to be talking more about social
emotional learning.
And so we'll be right back. And we're back. Hello, everybody. We're here with Scott Petru.
Ooh, very, very close.
I said it wrong.
Scott Pacitti.
Pacitti.
If I had $1 for everyone who said it incorrectly, I'd be a very rich man.
Well, thank you. Don't charge it to my
I will not. You get one freebie.
Scott Pacitti.
Oh, now you owe me. Scott Pacitti.
Pacitti. Okay, Scott Pacitti.
There you go.
Okay, I'm going to remember that.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about emotional learning.
Right.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that because it is used for anti-bullying as well.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about that because that's a big thing.
Part of the evolution in what I've done, as I tell people, my evolution, because I've been doing this now for 20 years, so, don't let my youthful good looks fool you. I've been doing this for quite a while. And the evolution that we have taken as an organization started out just strictly interested in performing at first. I like to get on stage and have fun and make people laugh, and I still do that on occasion as well. Then we transitioned, while still doing that, then we started to work in schools. We worked with people such as, Charlotte Mecklenburg School System. They have something called the After School Enrichment Program.
Right.
And what I did was, and this sounds silly when I say it, but it's true, I auditioned to be part of that program. And I went into a school, and the school said, yes, he did a good job at this, so he and his organization can do this. So every 2 years, they send a contract out to us, and we re-up. And there are coordinators in most of the elementary schools, some of the middle schools, and very few of the high schools, as you can imagine, after school. And what we will do is that the coordinators will contact our organization and say, we would like you to come in. I don't know, here's how many students that you would be working with, and there's a fee that's on file with them so they know how much it'll cost. And we go in, and most of the times what we do is we're putting on almost an improv basics workshop. So we're getting children who most of them don't know anything about improv. And it can be, a lot of times, since it's mostly elementary school students, it's mostly, obviously, anywhere from kindergarten to 5th grade.
Right.
And what they'll oftentimes do, depending on how many students they have in their group, they'll usually break it up. The younger kids first, and then the older kids second. So we do, and the wonderful thing about improv is, we do a lot of the same activities with both age groups. So you really don't have to do that much different. Just, you maybe slightly more sophisticated things to the older children than the younger children, okay?
Right.
So we started to do that with that, and then we started working with, locally here, the Arts and Science Council. And what we do with them, we're also a contracted provider for them, and at least pre-COVID days, they had residencies, they called them, where you could get connected with someone in a school, and they would call you in, and in our case, we would either do, like I said, improv basics class, or we could even teach a regular non-arts class with improv, which is really awesome.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we did a improv history with improv class at one time for World War II, and it was tremendously fun to do. Very fun. All right. So, and then the third sort of evolution in our process, keeping in mind that we still do the other things we do, we were fortunate enough. Now, we've been a nonprofit since 2007. So we've been around for 14 years now, just about 14 years now. And, as I got deeper and deeper into the local nonprofit community, I realized that, just how special the nonprofit community is, how there are so many men and women and organizations that are really, really out there, literally on the ground, trying to help people in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
And after I thought about it for a while, because I don't know that, even though we were a nonprofit, I don't know that I really put it together in my head that what I was doing was actually nonprofit.
Right.
And then I thought about it and I said, well, with no ego involved, I said, well, you're going out into the community and you're trying to help the children.
Right.
And so I said, yes, that makes perfect sense. And then what happened was we were fortunate enough to be introduced, bless you, we were fortunate enough to be introduced to the city of Charlotte, and now we are on our third grant that we received with them.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an organization, it's a grant called Jump Start, and it's sort of an entry grant that the city of Charlotte currently offers. And what it does, it is couched in a public safety arena.
Okay.
So that's how, when I say conflict resolution and anti-bullying, so what we're doing is we're trying to aim that towards the children, so that many children, unfortunately, and I know we all know this, but we don't think about it all the time. Bullying, unfortunately, has probably been around since the earliest days,
yes,
and unfortunately will probably be around, for the latest days. The difference these days is, in addition to being able to be bullied, face to face, maybe on a telephone, the children can now get bullied online.
That's right.
Whether
Cyberbullying.
it's social media, or when they're playing their video games with people, people can write mean comments and things like that.
Right.
So basically all we're trying to do is perhaps let the children who are, as I say, maybe suffering in silence. They're getting picked on in some way, but they just don't feel comfortable letting anyone know, even their parents, even their teachers, because oftentimes they're fearful that the bullies will find out that they've told someone, and they'll bully them even more. So, it's just a matter of, and what we can do with the art form of improv, which is wonderful, is we can then do, one of multiple things. We can either get them, if they feel comfortable doing so, we can get them, on our little stage, and we can ask them, tell me an experience that you've had with being bullied.
Right.
And, the other people that are in the audience, the children of their age group and grade level, maybe some of them, again, are suffering in silence, and they say,
But
wow,
when they see that
this is
person-
happening to someone
Right.
else too. I thought I was the only one this was happening to.
Right.
And then we can try to offer, some concrete things to help them. Again, they're basic things. Most of us know it, but maybe the children don't. Talk to a teacher. Talk
Right.
to a counselor. Talk to your parents. Talk to your friends. Because oftentimes, as I said, what they will say is, well, gosh, if I say something about the bully's just going to keep doing it. And what I oftentimes say to them is, well, what if we don't say anything?
Mhm.
You'll continue to get bullied. And
Bullied,
maybe your
right.
friends and your brothers and sisters. And I don't say that in a way to make them feel badly. It's just hopefully a way to
Awareness, yeah.
give them an option. And then we do some other things in those types of workshops as well. Some more fun things. And again, we do some maybe some scene work for improv, some makeup scenes. And what is really fun with those oftentimes that we'll do is we'll do scenes, say, when they get into a bullying situation or a conflict something with their brother or sister or mother or father.
Right.
And
They don't know how to handle
And
it.
it's so relatable because all of us have gone through it,
That's right.
or all of us will go through it.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I'm just hopeful that, any of the children that participate in such things, they find some useful coping mechanisms within the programs.
We need conflict resolution as adults. So.
We most definitely do.
Excuse me. Scott, I'm really excited about everything that you're doing for the children in reference to educating them on these different events through improv.
Right.
That is amazing. So I want to know as well, do you do this outside of the school system for just people's companies or things of that nature?
We do our
For the
best.
church?
We've done many church shows and church activities. We have done it in as many different places as you can imagine. As I always say, we work with people from pre-kindergarten through senior citizens and
Okay.
everywhere in between.
And because you're realizing that you're helping people, it is even better to just be that type of organization.
We hope so.
One that helps.
Again, it's wonderful because first of all, 99 out of 100 times it's fun, and never underestimate how enjoyable it can be, especially in these days, to smile, to laugh, to have a good time, to forget about one's problems at least for a short amount of time. But then also, I like to call it grape cough syrup. It's good and it's good for you. We're doing these things and they can be helpful to someone as well.
And you're right. When I first heard you talk about it and say improv, I thought about comedians,
Right.
stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
and I was like, how's that working for children? But I see what you're talking about. I get it. And I think it's just an amazing thing that you and your company are doing. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us in reference to what you have not already told us?
That's okay. Again, we do also many of the things that most people would think about with improv. At least we used to before the pandemic. We do actual shows where we go into venues, and I'll have maybe myself and half a dozen other comedians or improvisers, and we'll do the games much like the ones that they play on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Okay.
And very, very audience interactive. That's the most fun. What I love to do is get people from the audience up on the stage and have fun with us.
Wow.
And it really resonates with the crowd when they see one of their own come up, and especially when they do well. And I don't ever expect them to be professionals, obviously. So whatever they add is always a wonderful thing. So we do that. We do things such as going into companies to do team building activities. Improv is a wonderful tool for team building.
Right.
It allows them to sort of get out of their comfort zone, maybe see some of their colleagues and some of their higher ups in ways that they've never seen them before, and then they become more relatable to them.
And I think it would help also with stress. Like if you could take a time out in the course of the day to go do a little improv and just relax your spirit, you might be able to go back to work and just have a great day and be able to do your work and achieve your goals and accomplishments throughout the day.
I know that's what I use it for.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. So anything we can do to use the applied improv mindset, even things we haven't thought about yet. If anybody comes to me or us and says, have you ever thought about doing this? And something to leave you and the audience with, which anybody who's done improv before, they know The cornerstone of improv is two very simple words.
Okay.
Yes and. And let me tell you what that means. The yes part means that whatever the reality you are in, you accept it. You take it for what it is.
That's right.
And the and part means that you add on to that.
Okay.
So again, for some reason,
What are the reality that you're in? Accept it,
Yeah.
and then you add on to that.
Yeah. So let me give you a real quick example that I tell my corporate clients often, that most of us who've been in a corporate situation, it will resonate with us. Okay. We've all been to brainstorming sessions. Okay. Our boss will call us into a brainstorming session, and they'll say, "We called you here for whatever reason it is," and they'll say, "Okay, we need some ideas." All right. And then the boss will say, "Okay, tell me some ideas." And everybody will look at each other and they'll be a little nervous.
Right.
And then finally, someone will very sheepishly raise their hand and they'll say, "Boss, I think we should do this." And if you're working for a bad company, the boss will say either specifically or say it non-specifically, "Well, that's about the stupidest idea I've ever heard of in my whole entire life."
Okay.
And guess how many people want to raise their hand after that?
Nobody.
So basically, long story short, what yes and does is they ask for ideas, the person gives an idea, and both that person and everybody else in the room, they understand that it doesn't come out as a perfect idea right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What they do then is they go around the table, if they're sitting around a table or whatever, and each of them say, "Well, I like the idea, but have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this?" And maybe everybody takes their turn,
Right.
and by the end of that, it goes from plan A to plan whatever letter you're on,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, "Well, how do you feel about this?" And most people, since they've had some buy-in
Mm-hmm.
into the question, the program, the idea, they feel good about it. They can take it out into the field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it perfect? Probably not.
Right.
They still need to tweak it.
Right.
But again, you'll have the buy-in from the people as
Exactly.
opposed to the boss wagging their finger at someone
Right.
saying, "You will do this because I told you to, whether you feel comfortable about it or not."
Mhm.
So that is, on an adult level, really, what I think yes and is really a thought that
I
most
like
people
that.
can relate to.
I
So
like that.
again, and for some reason, a lot of our brains as human beings, oftentimes our default
Mm-hmm.
is no.
Right.
It's not yes.
Right.
So if we can rewire our brain, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job of it since I've been doing this for 20 years now, to almost, again, there are certain limits, obviously. If somebody says something, really wacky, you're not going to just say yes to off the stage, you're not going to just say yes to anything. But most times, and why do we oftentimes say no to whatever? Oftentimes it's fear. It's just that little voice in our head that says, "Oh, this is something new. This is something uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt. I'm afraid I'm going to look stupid. I'm afraid. Or someone saying, basically the voice saying, "Oh, this will make you vulnerable. And I don't want to look vulnerable or weak in front of someone else."
Mm-hmm.
Or look, those people are going to think, they're going to think this and they're going to think that.
Right. You can't be caught up in what other people think.
So again, improv tries to tell you, it tries to say, okay, turn down that little voice in your head, try it. You won't be perfect at it because none of us are the first time.
Right.
But give it a try. What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Exactly. Look, I'm glad you said yes to me when I asked for the interview. Okay?
You know what? Again, it's almost become second nature to me now. I so very rarely say no to anything after all these
Yes,
years. And I'll be honest with you. It's been a wonderful thing.
Oh.
You open up your life and your professional life and your personal life to so many experiences that oftentimes, again, we just automatically say no to, and we don't know how much we have missed out on.
Right. Or what opportunities it can bring to you.
What and I don't mean to sound too ponderous when I say it this way, but something I've learned over my years, or something I believe just wholeheartedly, is I don't believe that there are such things as mistakes. I don't think people make mistakes. What I believe is what people think are mistakes are perhaps expectations that were unrealistic, that weren't met. So people say, "Oh, I failed at that. I didn't do that correctly." As opposed to kind of looking at it and say, "Well, what risk did I take? What did I try to do that I have never done before? And I'm positive that I can pull something positive out of it." And obviously, if it's something new to you, something that you enjoy, that you want to try again, like most things, you practice. you get better and you get better and you get
Absolutely.
better. So
Absolutely.
that's really the way I've tried to live my life for, as long as I can remember now. And again, it's all a part of getting into improv. I really
Yes.
tip my improv cap to improv and thank it for the wonderful opportunities it has opened up in my life and continues to on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I can hear it, the excitement in your voice, the passion that you have for this, and it has blessed you, and you can really hear that. It's resonating from you. And I am so grateful because not only are you now touching me, you're making me think about something I never thought about before. And so again, just you teaching our children to do this. Think outside of the box. Don't be caught up in the fear, but try it. You never know what it's going to bring.
And think about that. And, I don't have any children personally, but my thought would be, what is the job of children, or what is the job of parents for children, or what it should be? As long as the activities, are within the realm of safe. We obviously never want to encourage our children to do anything unsafe. But isn't the job of a child to try everything?
Right.
And see what they like to do, what they're passionate about, so that as they progress through, regular school, and then if they want to go to college or technical school or open their own business, they've been able to explore just about everything, and they can find their passion in life. And, as you say about myself, and I'm sure about yourself as well, you're going to, hopefully, if you do it right, you're going to excel at the thing that you feel most passionate about.
Absolutely.
If you're a business person, or even if you're working for someone else. And so, because when times get hard for business people, and they get hard for all business people, if you're doing something perhaps only for the money, you're doing it and say, I'm going to make a lot of money doing it. And if that's your thing, that's a wonderful thing. But when the things get hard and you're only doing something for money, you can kind of say to yourself, I don't know, I was just kind of doing this, and now I'm not making any money, and it does not really.
Right.
Whereas if you say, you know what, I'm going through some bumps and bruises, it isn't a good time right now, but I still love what I do so much, and I'm going to get through this. It's just a matter of me figuring out some new avenues to go down, and it just becomes a motivator. And then especially, much as you do and much as we try to do, when you're attempting to help even the smallest amount of the community, and anytime you get any positive feedback of a thank you, or you see someone doing something that you haven't seen them do, I'll go into schools and a teacher will pull me aside after we've done something and they'll say, I've never seen him or her do that before. They're usually so quiet and they don't talk in class, but wow, they were having a great time. And I'm humbled by what a wonderful thing that is. And I say to people, at one point I didn't even know what improv was. Now I'm hopeful that I'll be doing something related to this art form for the rest of my life.
Okay. Wow. This has been a wonderful interview, Scott. So let me ask you, how can people reach you on social media?
Okay. There are many ways. First of all, not social media, but we have websites. We have planetimprov.com. We have planetimprovinc.org, which is aimed towards our nonprofit. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Facebook, either under my name, which is Scott Andrew Pacitti. I'm sure there'll be a graphic of some sort that will spell my name out for those who can't spell it. You can go on Twitter. I have both the Planet Improv account, also a Planet Improv account on Facebook, also a personal account on Twitter, which is @ImprovScott. So there are many, many ways to reach out to us, and we always love to talk to people, whether they've ever done anything improv related or not, or anybody that has any sort of connection with children. Educators, administrators, parents, obviously, any kind of
Churches,
educational organization.
right.
Yeah, anywhere where children can feel safe and get into a group of friends and things like that. And we love to take our sessions out into the world. Right now, obviously, we're doing a lot of virtual sessions, which we can do virtual sessions as well, which is wonderful. We do them on Zoom, or sometimes the schools have their own method that they like through Google and things like that. So at least in the short term, we've been doing more of the online than the offline. But our fingers, as are everyone's fingers crossed, that as we get close to the summer and close to the fall, hopefully we can resume more of the face-to-face type activities.
Okay, well, Scott, thank you so very much for being on Speak Life. I truly, truly, again, appreciate it. Let me ask you a question. You said Scott Improv. What? Scott Improv, that's a social...
I'm going to charge you for this too. So you have $2,
Lord.
$2 for mispronouncing my name. Now I'm going to charge you for this. I think you may have been let's see, I had the Twitter, which is @Improv Scott, and then on Facebook is just under my name, Scott Andrew Pacitti, and then also Planet Improv, both on Facebook and on Twitter.
Okay, so it will be in the credits, okay? So, again, thank you for coming on. We appreciate what you're doing in the community. We thank you for all the help that you're giving to the children. We appreciate you, Scott Pacitti.
Another $1, so you're up to $4
Oh my
now.
gosh.
Scott Pacitti.
Pacitti.
But again, as I said to
I was
you,
close.
as I said to you already, if I had $1 for everybody who mispronounced or misspelled my name, I'd be a very wealthy man.
Okay, so say your name again.
Scott Pacitti.
Scott Pacitti.
There you go. I'll take one of the dollars back.
Okay, Scott Pacitti.
There, take another $1 back. I see what you're doing here. I see what you're doing here.
Okay, so thank you again for watching here on Speak Life. We'll see you next time. I'm Pastor Melissa B, and we're out. Have a great day. Bye-bye.